Story right now is what's happened in Rafah. Well, at least 45 Palestinians were killed in an Israeli operation on Sunday in the southern city of Rafah, that's in Gaza, and many of them were women and children. Social media has been abuzz with all eyes on Rafah campaign, with several people, celebrities and influential people really pouring their support for those killed, maimed and decapitated. What's important to note is that the strike happened when most of those people, those were killed, were sheltering in tents. There's been condemnation coming in from several countries, including France, Egypt, Qatar, and the UN as well. But the United States, however, says that it has not seen any evidence of Israeli troops smashing into Rafah. Moreover, the White House spokesperson John Kirby says that US does not have any quota for deaths or a measuring stick before it could review its support for Israel. The question then is, does it really mean Israel will continue to enjoy US support no matter how many civilians die? We'll discuss this and more with our guest this evening, who's Suresh K Goel, former ambassador. Thanks, sir, for joining us this evening on ET Now to discuss this very important story that's actually been trending everywhere, with people actually coming out and pouring their support for those killed in Gaza. Now, there's been condemnation across the world from several nations, but important to note, the US does not really believe Israel's actions in Rafah really amount to a major groundbreaking operation that could really cross a red line for President Joe Biden to actually trigger a possible US policy change. So what will it, sir, take the US to really draw the red line, and what is it then the US is waiting for?
I don't think the USA has defined what the red lines are, except saying that there are red lines which Israel should not cross. But at no given time, according to my memory, the USA has specified what those red lines are. And even if those red lines are crossed, the most that would happen is that USA will stop supplying the ammunition and the weapons to Israel, and nothing beyond that really. And therefore, what I would say here is that Israel, I think, is practically sure that given the state of bilateral relations between the two countries, there is no way that USA will be taking any kind of tough action on the ground or in terms of relationship vis-a-vis Israel. And the reason for that is very simple. This is the election year in the USA, and the Democratic Party as well as other parties depend quite a lot on the financing from the Jewish lobby, the Jewish groups in the USA, which would practically be contingent on USA continuing support to Israel, whoever is in power in Israel, but contingent on the support given by USA to Israel. And therefore, I don't think that we could expect any change in USA policy vis-a-vis Israel, at least till the elections are over. Sumita.
Right. So then does it mean, sir, that the state of Israel can go unscathed?
It has. It is going to continue to do that, even though there is a wide but huge scale criticism of Israel, both in the United Nations, amongst many countries. There are European countries which have now gone on to recognize the state of Palestine. Everybody knows that the only solution really is a two-state solution, where Palestinians can be assured of their own nationhood within defined borders and the defined capital. The only issue really would remain is Jerusalem, how to really take care of Jerusalem, control, etc., etc. But Israel has not yet given an acceptance to the state solution, to the two-state solution. In fact, I remember that till about 20 years ago, Arafat was still alive, and when there was a great deal of expectation that eventually there could be a state of Palestine existing side by side with Israel, Al-Fatah, the party of Arafat, was about to basically thinking of coming into the power in that separate state of Palestine. And if you have to believe the reports at that time, Hamas came into play to exercise power in Gaza. And there were several speculations at that time that actually Hamas was supported by Israel. to give the contest to Al-Fatah in exercising power in Gaza. So in that sense, Hamas has also been trained. There are again reports that Al-Hania was actually trained by Israel. And in that sense, there is a relationship between Hamas and Israel. So given all that, I doubt very much that Israel would ever be interested in creating an independent state of Palestine. And the USA, even though supporting politically and technically the two-state solution, is not going to push Israel in really following on that decision.
So, sir, what will it really take for Israel to push Israel to halt its abuse that's been taking place in Gaza? We also know that the European Union held a key meeting on Monday to come up with measures to either slap sanctions on Israel. And you know, these steps are actually coming in from historically those nations, European Union nations, that have supported Jews and Israel. But the war is changing their attitude as well. So isn't the message really loud and strong for Israel to stop its offensive? And secondly, sir, will sanctions work to stop Israel from further incursions?
Sanctions, I've worked with the US system for more than 3 years. And I was there from 91 to 95. And I know there have been huge sanctions imposed against Iran. When we did our nuclear testing in 1998, the USA began to impose sanctions against India in terms of trade and so on and so forth. It depends upon the strength of the country, and the sanctions have not really worked in that sense. North Korea is an example, where the sanctions have not really worked to deter a country which is determined in terms of its own pursuits from giving up. So I don't think the sanctions are going to work. What actually is happening is that there is a very interesting kind of change in the power dynamics in the Middle East. Compared to the earlier times, when basically Israel was, of course, alone in terms of, and with the support of Europe and the support of USA, was able to exercise a power on its own within the Middle East. Things are now changing. Saudi Arabia is now basically interested in developing Middle East as a kind of an economically connected region where the countries can, Europe and Asia and China can come together for economic uplifting of the region, diversification. I think those things are going to make a difference.
So the bottom line really is, what will it really take to stop Israel from further incursions, from further bombings, given that sanctions can't work? You're saying Israel doesn't listen to the ICJ's orders and doesn't either accept a two-state solution.
All those pressures will continue, but eventually I think what is going to work is a realization on part of Israel that things cannot continue as they are for far too long with the changing power dynamics in the region. And I'm mentioning Saudi Arabia, Iran, in this particular context, Qatar, Egypt. If Israel wants to really continue in terms of a secure region, Israel will have no option but to accept a Palestinian state. And I think that will happen sooner or later, because there is no alternative to that. Yes.
Right, so and we'll have to see how soon that really happens, because of course no action is definitely no solution, and there has to be an end to this war. There has to be an end to the number of casualties that are happening as a result of this war. On that note, thank you very much, sir, for joining us this evening and sharing your thoughts and your perspectives.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.